Welcome to a new English live session of Seibert Media. I have a guest. It's Wendell Keunemann. Hi, Wendell.
How are you?
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time and doing us this favor. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at Atlassian? I know I could do it, but maybe you can do better, and I can put something on top later on how important you are and what you do at Atlassian and why everyone wants to see this video or live session.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the head of product for Confluence at Atlassian. I've been at Atlassian for about 4 or 5 years now, and I worked in a number of areas. And Confluence is where I spend most of my time today. And mostly on the cloud products, but I also help the server teams as well.
You're kind of my first go-to person whenever I have a question about Confluence, as Confluence is one of the most important products for Seibert Media. We're doing this intranet solution, Linchpin, and so I would want to start with a question about your Confluence product. And I did see, let me share my screen real quick, that on Twitter you shared a blog post about that. And here is Wendell's Twitter account. And in early January, he had this blog on blogs.atlassian.com talking about what Atlassian has achieved in 2016 and what they will do more in 2017. I would love you to reiterate on that, explain that to us. But before you do, let me give our viewers some basic instructions on how this webinar is going. So as we have a couple of people watching this, if you want to ask a question yourself, you can do so on the YouTube page. It has a chat on the right side. Problem is, you will have to create a YouTube channel. You don't have to post any videos, but there's a small hurdle for you. You need a Google user and a YouTube account to do that. I do see a couple of people being in the chat already. So you can place your questions there. On the webinar page, there is also a direct link to this Hangout. So you can join this Hangout and ask questions yourself and start the conversation. If you disturb us too much, I might be forced to ban you, but it never happened. So please feel free and welcome to join and ask questions and give us what we forgot to say. Without further ado, Wendell, what happened in 2016 to Confluence? What is up for 2017? What did you already achieve? What can you announce? Tell us.
Yeah, so I think you were referring to that blog post that we wrote toward the end of 2016. I think it was the intent of that blog post was really to try and reflect on what we were happy and proud of, and the journey that our customers took with us. And so the first thing we wanted to celebrate was the fact that we hit a milestone around 100 million pages. And in fact, that number is actually specifically for cloud. And it's the number for in server customers is actually much, much bigger.
So you cannot calculate the same thing for server yet?
No, because I think at the end of the day, server customers have to opt in if they want to data to be collected, and so that's a complete. Administrators have to opt in if they want to collect anonymous data, and that's not all of our customers turn that facility on. So we can get an estimate for what the size or how many pages there are on server, but not it is just an estimate. But we can be very clear on how many there are in cloud. And I know for a fact there are some massive server customers out there. And
I can second that.
One customer, I can't say who, but they came up to me afterwards and they said, you know, our server instance is 20 million pages alone. so we have a massive base behind the firewall as well.
So the 100 million pages, this is only for cloud, or did you count those who opt in for statistics in server as well?
Yeah.
Cloud only.
Yeah. So just cloud. And moving on, if I may, around the other things that we talked about. So I think another thing that we were really proud of is that we were shipping collaborative editing behind the firewall that should be rolling out to all the cloud by the end of this quarter. We're progressively releasing that to customers as we speak. We started releasing native apps for both iOS and Android. Those are features that are available for Confluence Cloud. We're starting to evolve those applications. And for server and data center, we started progressively rolling out new improvements and a lot of votes that customers had made, which we satisfied with those server and data center releases. But in terms of add-ons for Connect, a lot of customers who are considering moving to cloud really care about what the ecosystem is, and I think we have a very vibrant ecosystem. Our customers on-premise, and we wanted to try and bring some of that to the ecosystem in cloud, and so we unlocked a lot of those capabilities. So capabilities like Kamala, theming capabilities, as well as diagramming capabilities like Draw.io are also unlocked as a result for Connect in cloud.
Okay. What's the two things or the three things that you would want your teams to deliver feature-wise in 2017 that will make you and your customers and our customers happy, in your opinion? What is it?
Yeah, I can't talk specifics, as you know, Martin. But what I can do, and I mentioned this earlier, is a few of the things that we're trying to lean into. I can talk about large categories of things. So for mobile, we're just starting to make inroads there, and I think for 2017, we're going to be closing out the base capabilities on mobile across both iOS and Android, and that will make for a great companion application, existing web experience. Beyond that, we really want to take mobile. We really see mobile being a big part of our future. So we feel like there may be capabilities where people can sign up to Confluence, and in fact, all of our Atlassian applications in the App Store or Google Play Store, for that matter. So right now, it's very much you start with the web and you go from there. And whereas I think in the future you could see a user actually starting a space right from their mobile phone. That's a capability that we're interested in pursuing, and that lends itself to the fact that we have many teams who really care about quickly starting a workspace and wanting to do that very quickly for whether it's a project or a documentation space or anything within those two categories. Confluence is a great choice for them, but they need to be able to get started quickly. And so whether it's mobile or web, that's one of the areas that we want to try and make simple for users, is to get started very quickly. And so we want to lower the barrier to entry for people to get started.
Can I try to summarize that in my own words, and then you justify whether I got that correct? So one is people want to start creating content mobile because they're sitting at their doctors waiting and they have an idea that is business relevant. And then you want this Confluence mobile app to be their first place where they start creating content, and then in Confluence, and then they can pick it up when they come back to their desktop computers and make it pretty and elaborate and so on. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, and I think the capabilities on mobile will evolve so that you can do more things. But what we've seen with customers right now is that, yes, what you explained is probably a good way to describe the use case for mobile right now. But you'll find, like with a phone, it's very much about capturing ideas while you're on the go. We often find customers also wanting to capture a whiteboarding session that they may have done together, and they want to quickly upload that notification to Confluence as a result. And so that's something that is part of Teams workflow. So constantly, whether you're in a meeting, a brainstorming session, a decision meeting, or just a status meeting, there's a lot of physical resources used in the room as well. So whether it's a whiteboard or post-it notes and things like that, so you can just quickly take a photo, upload it to Confluence, and then expand on that capability, whether you're on mobile or in front of your desk. Experience, you can do that with some of the richer page content that you can create. We see a lot of.
Let's stay with this mobile device for now. As you know, I'm sitting in Wiesbaden in Germany right now. Our customers are mostly very big enterprises, and they all all use Confluence Server. There is no mobile app for Confluence Server, and to be honest, I don't see it coming either. Can you help me with that? Like, am I just too pessimistic? Is there anything that we're going to see in 2017 mobile-wise for Confluence Server?
I can't make that commitment because, as I said, I can't share that right now because that's an area that I don't manage directly. Mm-hmm. But what I can tell you is we're actively listening to how our customers are receiving, I guess, how we're using it on the cloud. And cloud is often a good litmus test for us to try and understand how customers are receiving the features that we're bringing out. And we're certainly listening. We acknowledge some of the interest that we're getting. We also want, and I think I've talked about this in the past, Martin, with you just one-on-one, but I can share with everyone, there are some unique challenges to delivering a mobile offering behind the firewall. So it's not to say that they're not, we can't get over those issues, but I think there's some challenges. So version management, I think for administrators around what version of the server they're using, as well as what version is in the App Store. There's also challenges essentially around mobile device management. So, potentially there's some corporate information that might be on the app that administrators may want to manage remotely. There's a few things that we're considering before, because I think that the problem space for server is a little bit more complicated. But that is definitely, there is definitely demand for that.
Yeah, there is demand for that. May I interject some small commercial and an introduction for you, as we already have a working server mobile app at this point.
Yes.
And I would want to show it to you, as I didn't do that. And I assume that most people didn't see it yet either who are on this webinar. So if you're interested, I will share my screen. Are you interested?
Okay, we're going to pause for a commercial break.
Yeah, this is not a commercial break. It's a demonstration for Atlassian on how this can work. This is not unfeasible. Even the silly people at Seibert Media have managed to do that. So this is my mobile phone, and I hope that you can see the screen right now. Can you? Yeah, OK, cool. So in the upper left corner, there's this Linchpin icon. I'm going to click that. And then there's a login screen. And as you can see, there's a host name. This is our local host. And so we find the firewall instance. And on the upper side, it's green on me. I don't know whether you can see it in the video, but there's a VPN sign. Yeah, you can see it in the video. I just double checked. And so I am connected to our VPN. I have a direct connection to this server. This is, at this point, for our app, still a mandatory thing. We're building a gateway server to circumvent that. But at this point, you need to have this VPN connection. However, so I have my host name, my username, and my password. I click sign in. And then this is actually a Linchpin app, as we're trying to not replicate what we assume Atlassian will one day air. I'm still waiting, still looking at your Confluence Cloud app on mobile. And this is like top-down news. So, for example, my colleague Paul Herwart disseminating how he thinks product innovation should be going and not build this shit again. And so this is the news we're sharing internally. There's an option for me to get my personal feed. Then there's the microblog, which is also a plugin that we've built. There's a kind of phone book. So the buddies that you're working with a lot are directly here. You can call them. You can look at their profiles, instant message them. You can search. And this is especially interesting for big companies, in my opinion, that you can have access to all current profiles in your company. Let me pull up my own profile here, which includes a lot of stuff like when they joined, what their position is, who their superior is, who their subordinates are, phone number, and so on. So these are the profiles. Then we have an events add-on called Easy Events, where I can see the events that I have been or that I will participate in. And then this is probably most interesting for those people watching. There's a search with your recently viewed pages. And you can click on them. You can leverage Confluence search here. And you can see contents of pages, comment, and even, hold on, let me show with the microblog real quick. So just write test, choose a picture. I don't know which one you want, the New York Times. And then choose a channel, whatever, and save that. So you can actively create content. You can look at content. You can search for stuff. And it's been a very hard ride because we had to, for example, to show pages like this, we had to, how do you say that? Wrap? No, so basically we're rendering the pages in the mobile app again. This has some technical reasons because there's only JSON blobs that we can securely exchange between the app and the Confluence server. So what you said is true. There's a lot of technical needs that we have to be able to do that, but it is feasible. And I am kind of disappointed that we can do this with our small team, and Atlassian does not. Be faster, please.
Yeah, I think, as I said, we're still looking at options for us, and I think we're looking at a much, much bigger audience in terms of catering to a variety of different options. So, as I said, I think you have device management capabilities, version control capabilities, and I think what you're rendering also is basically mostly web pages within a web app, and we're also looking at native capabilities too. And so we're looking for a hybrid mixture that will solve the version control problems that may exist between customers, because one customer may be on version 6, other customers may be quite behind. We understand that we'll have to make restrictions as well around which versions of a server we might do. So we're considering all of those things beforehand. And as I said, the final decision does not rest with me. That will be with my server counterpart. But we are definitely listening to customer feedback.
If I want to get access to Confluence Server mobile app, can I sign up for a beta program or fill out a form so that you'll contact me as soon as you want feedback? Is that available already?
Yeah. No, there's no beta or prototype or anything like that. I think right now we're just gauging interest. I think the best thing to do is I can put or channel that feedback through to the right place. So I'm more than happy to if you can channel that feedback from your customer base. I'm more than happy to pass that on to the server team who's considering their roadmap throughout 2017 and FY18, and whether that's something that they can take on.
Okay. Would you allow me to ask some detailed questions that we got from customers? There's also something in the chat, and that I brought along from our colleagues. So let's start with Confluence 6. It includes this awesome collaborative editing feature. And if we have new customers today, we still recommend them to use Confluence 6 without collaborative editing, or the last version of Confluence 5, I don't know, 7.13 or 9. I don't actually I don't know the version number that was prior to Confluence 6. And it's a long time since you aired a general availability of Confluence 6. So I went out to our consultants and said, isn't it time to tell customers to adopt this concurrent editing now? And they said, no, it's not compatible with a couple of plugins like scroll versions and other stuff. And also it breaks, or whatever this means, a lot of time. And I thought, oh, that's disturbing. So I'm going to go out to other Atlassian partners and ask them for their practice with their customers. And then I found out that they do the same thing. I said, oh, why is that so unstable? Why doesn't Atlassian fix that? So can you tell me anything about this? Is this completely new to you? Is it all working, and our people are the only ones being conservative? What's the problem with Synchrony, the technology behind concurrent editing?
Yeah, I think I just want to be clear about pointing the finger in the wrong direction here, Martin. I think the main thing here is that this is a major release change, and so two major releases, there are compatibility differences between the older versions. And so the 5.10 series, it was a long 5.10 series is because we didn't have any compatibility changes. 6.0 was going to be the big compatibility change with, I would say, what we call breaking changes, in the sense that there may be some backward compatibility issues, and that's why we declared a major release change. And so the key thing here is typically with changes like this, which are major, often there are some that we need to do from the plugin sense that create issues with plugin vendors, where they need to either upgrade to the latest APIs or make allowances for the changes that are in the core product. The specific thing with regards to synchrony or the collaborative editing feature, I'm more than happy to actually take that back to our team and have them work through that. As I said, our intent is to make sure that all of the key plugins and add-ons that people use continue to work in the future. But as I said, this is a major release, and there's usually a lag sometimes between add-on vendors and the core change that requires a bit of catch-up, where the ecosystem has to play catch-up to the major release that's been shipped. Happy to continue to work with those vendors to get their plugins in a place where it is compatible with that version, because care about customers upgrading to this version, and that's the most important thing for us. So I'm more than happy if there's specific Jack tickets or issues that are not in Jack yet, or support tickets or otherwise. I'm happy if you can just send those over to us, or customers can send those over to me or via you. I'm more than happy to look at those, because and work and pass that on with the server team to work those through.
Okay, so let me rephrase that in a short sentence. Martin, calm down. This is a major release. It may take some time.
I'm sorry, you broke up just then, Martin. Calm down, it's a major release, and what was the last bit?
The last bit was this sometimes takes some time.
Absolutely, like sometimes the breaking changes versions that happens, and we're actively working with our partners to get those up to speed. But if there's specific things that we've overseen, I'm more than happy to actually take that to our server team and work through. But I'm pretty certain they're probably already working with that ecosystem vendors. But if we've missed something, we'll look at it.
Yeah, okay. I think there is something specific, because Dominic Finker, one of our customers, and actually he's a former employee as well, had some problems with Confluence 45.3.2.1. Dominic, I think you'll have to join yourself to explain that, because I looked at the issue and it's too detailed for me to read while interviewing Wendell. Feel free to join and ask your specific question. My last question on the concurrent editing and synchrony thing, Wendell, is, do you hear other customers voice these complaints as well? Or is it just me saying that this is unstable?
Stability, or I think I'm just trying to make sure, like, I understand. Is it specifically about stability, or are you talking about plugin compatibility?
All of this.
Or both.
Like problems with concurrent editing that prevent people from adopting Confluence 6 fully.
We are working with a number of beta customers, or rather customers who have put 6.0 in environment, and so we're constantly working through issues that they may arise. I mean, as I said earlier, and I think this is something, the customers who are adopting this are typically much larger instances, and so we're through specific features around certain older content that may not necessarily be compatible anymore. Around the synchrony work, most of that environment or a data center environment where we're actually working through those issues. What I'm hearing is that many customers have adopted this to success. I think the customers that typically are having some of the challenges are upgrading from environments which are have larger data volumes. And we have both new customers in cloud, and we have tens of thousands of instances in cloud that already have adopted collaborative editing features, which are essentially the same capabilities that we're bringing to server.
Yeah, I fully agree. So, if you already have an instance with a specific use case and you want to upgrade to Confluence 6, that's what I'm talking about. If you are new to Confluence and you don't know what would be possible and just figure it out, it's probably easy and also feasible just to start with Confluence 6 and not have these add-ons that are incompatible at this point, because it won't break your neck in this very instance. Yeah, that's also part of the answer. So this is probably a question that I see a lot, because we have a lot of customers who want to move to that, and less so that are adopting this from a blank perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
So Dominic is not going to join, obviously. So some of our technicians pointed out that upgrading Jira is far better than upgrading Confluence, because in Jira, and this is I only heard that, you can upgrade from any version to the current version. In Confluence, you have to follow a certain path where you upgrade from 5.7 to 5.8 to 5.9 to 5.10 and then to 6 if you are in 5.6 or whatever. And he was asking whether Atlassian is doing any efforts to synchronize the platforms that are below Confluence and Jira, so that both products and also Bitbucket Server and so on could benefit from such features. Upgrades was one thing. Then he came up and said, in Jira, there's this point or period where you click, and then a search bar appears, and you can go anywhere in the admin area easily, and it's not available for Confluence. And there's a lot of other needy details with, Dominic's coming. Please wait, Dominic, until we have answered this question.
Sure, no problem.
There's a lot of things that are different in Confluence and Jira. And I assume that after you've now bought Trello, you will try to include all these products together and want to have one unified experience. And you don't even get it for Confluence and Jira at this point, as for saving, I have to use different keys. I think it's Control and Enter, and Control and S for saving in Jira, respectively, Confluence. Why isn't that the same? Why don't you work on synchronizing that so that I have this unified experience?
Yeah, so I think it kind of goes back to the history of the two products. I think they had very different starting points and significant code bases in there. I think what we try and do is the first thing we tried to do is trying to align the user experience so that there are commonalities around how the overall user experience feels, like navigation and aesthetics. There is still much work to do there. As you said, there are some specific features like being able to access administrative controls in Jira more readily. We find that customers most of the features are actually available at a user level. Administrators go into the panel to do, like, for example, in Jira, I think there's a need to go into schema changes more often for administrators, whereas the reasons for actually going into administration for Confluence are a little bit different. And that's usually around space administration. And that's usually for access permissions and rights for a particular space or otherwise. Having said that, I think there are things that our teams are looking to do around unifying some of these experiences or making them a little bit more consistent across applications. That's something that I've seen the server team look at a little bit more as they progress over time. So I think a couple of years that is something that they're interested in pursuing, a little bit more of a unified experience. I think in terms of the upgrades, that probably is more challenged because just the underneath each of the products is quite different. And so how we actually handle the upgrade path and things like that is a little bit more challenging in terms of how we handle base upgrades and so on and so forth. So I feel like it's those two things between Jira and Confluence are a little bit more challenging. I think there is generally an intent to unify some of those experiences. While we cannot unify all things like event upgrades, we would certainly be interested in trying to make the upgrade experience better in both applications. I think it's always a goal. But where we can't be consistent, we want to try and reduce the amount of friction.
Okay, I understand your answer. I'm a little bit surprised that you don't mention you had a team called Fusion, a platform team that would work for Confluence and Jira to alleviate this unified experience and share technology and so on. Did you abandon this practice, or I thought you would bring this up and say, look, there's a team that is working on this?
I think there is I think if you're talking about the Fusion team, I think they are, focus is about our products to have a better experience between and Bitbucket, and that is the mission of the Fusion team, is to actually make those experiences and that workflow experience unified.
Okay, they need the Confluence in their visions. Okay. Yeah, okay, I understand. Thanks for doing. Actually, I understand that this is not the same, and the admin area for both products can be the same, and there will be differences. When it comes to things like saving, it's a little bit different or difficult to explain to customers why you can't hit the same shortcut to save. But okay, that's a detail. Dominic, thanks for joining. You're the premier. I'm excited. I can share your screen, and maybe you can explain what it was that you wanted to point out or complain. So there's this Confluence 45.321 issue, possibility to vote for discard or save own changes before discarding everyone's work. I assume that both Wendell and I do not know what this is about. Could you explain the problem really quick and why you are so disappointed about it?
Yeah, of course, no problem. I've been testing Confluence 6 since the EAP phase, and we're actually quite eager to use the concurrent editing. I've been asked multiple times from my colleagues, is Confluence able to do a concurrent editing, and they're really eager to use it. So in my opinion, it's the biggest feature ever, but there's a major drawback in my humble opinion, and that is when two people are working on the same document, and the first worker, the first editor, discards or closes the document, he gets the question, discard all changes or save a draft. And as soon as he says discard all changes, all edits from the other workers are lost. They don't even get a warning or something like that. It's just gone. And it's even worse if you save a draft and another worker stays in the document and then he says discard all changes, then even the draft of the other worker it's gone. So that's a really bad decision that you've done there, because this will get multiple users very, very frustrated when they're using the concurrent editing feature.
Yeah, so just so you know, just a clarification is that the other users who are working in that document will get a notification that the page was reverted to a previous version.
In which version?
That is a change. They'll get a notification. The other people who were working on the doc will get a notification that that person who discarded the draft to a previous version of the document notification.
Okay, when did you implement that? Because we were actually running 6.0.4 on our production system, and I don't remember getting such a notification.
Okay, so a couple of things. One is that is something that should be happening. If not, I think I'd probably add a note to that ticket to say that. The second thing is, recently we went through some because we've actually been having these discussions with customers that I said to Matt earlier, where around how users are the challenges they're using, and we made some design decisions around this, which don't always work in every scenario, and this is a good example of where we've made it a design decision which is challenging for other people who are using the document. What we've done is we are looking at an alternative experience for this, and we're probably going to ship that experience first to cloud, because it'll probably get to cloud customers sooner. That should arrive probably later in this quarter, so toward March. And when we get some more positive feedback about this, which avoids this scenario, typically what we're doing is we're not really forcing people to make a decision about discarding their draft. We're really just prompting them to save and close their work.
Okay.
Right. So I think we're optimizing for people to, if they don't want to publish, they can save and close their work instead. And the discard capability is something we're essentially removing, because we realize that is something that's problematic for more individuals when there is simultaneous document edit. And so we're taking that capability away so that no one person has this control to discard. And that should make its way down to server as well, because we work with the server team to make sure that those design changes will make its way to server. So it won't come to server and it will make its way to server, but I know we work with the server team, so they have a plan to implement it as well.
Okay, let me try to. Okay, let's try to. I think I need to mute Dominic because he has an echo. What I understand as a problem here is that during concurrent editing, people could go away from concurrent editing and discard changes of others that were still working, and then things could get lost, although they were still trying to work on this or however. So one would take a decision for others, and in this ticket they would ask for a voting mechanism or whatever. and you say, we'll most probably get rid of this discard button one day, and then let people revert to the earlier version if they want to go back or whatever, in the way that we know how Confluence works today. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so on that, Mark. So I think if you remember, like when in previous versions before collaborative editing, and this maybe just provide Dominic some background as to why this decision was made in the first place, or the earlier decision was back in the 5. Versions or prior to collaborative editing, when we had drafts or an individual draft, you could always discard the document and revert it. And that's a capability that we wanted to try and provide. But obviously, when you have a shared draft, that causes issues for others, and this negative effect was happening. We wanted to, the intent behind it was to try and provide the author to revert to a previous version of the document quickly. But what we realized that was providing negative effects for other collaborators, and as a result, what we're suggesting to users is they can just good old Control-Z will undo the number of updates they want to do. If they want to back out their changes in their particular, while they're collaborating, they can back out their changes using Control-Z, and then they can just save and close the document and let the other authors continue implementing the work. So as I said, it's something that we've looked at, where it's a design change that we got feedback from customers from, and we already got an alternative design and UX improvement that should help there.
Yeah, I think Dominic had a follow-up question, which I will simply cut out for time reasons at this point. I thank you a lot, Wendell, for taking this question and for making sure that people can understand that Atlassian is open for a open company, no bullshit discussion about stuff that you may have gotten wrong and may need to change. That's very, very valuable for me to be able to point to this part of the video and say, look, he's listening to that, and he may even pick up the link that I sent him and pass it on to his team if he's in good mood. I have a last question for you, Wendell. It's about destructive abundance. Have you ever heard of destructive abundance?
Destructive abundance, please explain.
It's a term coined by Simon Sinek in his new book, Leaders Eat Last, which is an awesome book, by the way, that I can highly recommend to people. And he says that people who are very successful, or economies or companies that are very successful, they create an abundance for themselves. They can spend money on more things than they could yesterday because they earn so much money. And then they, to make it very easy, I would say they get lazy, and things become destructive because of abundance. Everyone has everything, so we don't need to do anything anymore. Do you feel that Atlassian could be hit by destructive abundance, as you are so successful right now? Could it be that the pace of development of new features slows down because Confluence is already so much better than other products, or Jira is, and you don't need to develop as fast anymore? And I know the obvious answer that you need to give as a representative of a publicly traded company is no. We're still working hard. I would want you to give me an answer trying to reinforce my evil statement. What is it that could slow you down? What is it that could make you destructive with all the abundance around you? what is it that you are frustrated about because it doesn't move anymore?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think complacency is always a factor when you get to a certain size and scale, and I want to, and I think my answer is absolutely no. Like we are not resting hands under our laps, that's for sure. I think one of the changes that we've been doing is trying to optimize the best outcomes for cloud customers and server customers. So that was a key change that we did, so that we can actually make sure that what we were trading off potentially for best of both worlds for those customer bases is now different. We absolutely want to make sure that server customers, we're listening to our server customers, be it small or medium or enterprise customers in our server base. Cloud customers, they have different needs. Change in terms of how we're looking at our two bases. And so we feel that we are better aligned to that customer base as a result, because I think previously we were trying to make sure like both sides of the fence was happy, and I think we can deliver now to server customers for their exact needs. So what you're going to see in time, and that change, I would say, is still relatively recent. What you're going to see as we start ramping up in that is specific improvements, like you hinted at the sort of this a better and more unifying experience. That is something that we actually want to do, particularly for server customers. I think they want to try and have consistency at the very least in terms of how they actually go about things. So there are aspects of that. We are definitely not slowing down. In fact, hear a bunch of things at upcoming Euro Summit that I think will excite everyone there about how quickly we're moving. I'll tell you exactly what those things are. I think there's some interesting things in the pipeline, and I hope everyone will be excited by what we're talking about. And I can say things, but I think it's always in action that is best heard. So I say wait for Euro Summit, and then the summit in San Jose shortly after, and you'll see.
Okay, Dominic already had, I don't know whether you could see that, and I don't know whether you could see it on the video, but he said amen. And so thanks for this answer. There's some evil detail that I can give you for Mike Cannon-Brookes, the founder of Atlassian. He is a big fan of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, the big investor. Or I don't know whether he's a big fan. He's talking about him on Twitter often, and he's following him and so on. And this guy said, you can, it was just like in an interview, he said, you can look at the state of a company by looking at the houses of their CEOs. So if the CEOs have very big houses, they need to spend a lot of time maintaining these houses, which is not good for their company. You probably need to know that this Warren Buffett guy is still, he's one of the richest person in the world, and he's living in a very small house somewhere in Omaha, I think. And one of the news that I get from Mike Cannon-Brookes through LinkedIn is Mike Cannon-Brookes bought this 3 million house. Mike Cannon-Brookes bought this 8 million house. Mike Cannon-Brookes bought this 11 million house. I don't know how. I know he has a couple of kids. I don't know how many families he is living there in with. But like, if I listen to Warren Buffett, Atlassian is going astray. Yeah.
Look,
I know it's not a question. It was just a detail that came up because LinkedIn was telling me all this, like, we have new news of Mike and Brooks. He bought a house. Okay. So.
Tell you because I do get to work with both of our founders on a regular basis. They're some of the most humble guys that that I know, and they're good people. And it was actually interesting. We had a company event recently where we put a fair on, a fair like a little a fair with rides and things like a mini Disneyland, I would say, for families and friends. And I think it's important how connected they are to the people of the company and how simple they are in how they exchange in their exchanges with the people. And I think for me, while I can't comment on all of that stuff that you mentioned, I think for me that's what counts as a person. You can have a conversation with those people, and when you go to Summit every year, talk to Mike and have a very honest conversation with him. And I think for me,
Absolutely.
That's what matters.
I was just giving you a way to tease him. I have met Michael Brooks myself in a lot of times. He's very down to earth, and I feel very good for him that he has grown this success, and it's totally fine for him spending some of his money on things that he likes. That's totally fine. I think it's in Germany, there wouldn't be a way for people to understand or find out who would buy which houses. This seems to be something that is special to Australia, and to tell my honest opinion on that, I think it's kind of invading in his intimacy and his private life by publicly reporting on that. But
yeah,
I just couldn't resist giving you this parallel of on the one hand having this Warren Buffett focus of him, and then buying these houses. So please take it with a grain of salt. It was not meant to have bad vibrations. And by the way,
no.
Dominic seems to know that one of these houses, he said, Mike bought for you. He just didn't tell you. So we thought maybe in this webinar, it's time to reveal that. Maybe just go to him and ask him which one it is.
I think we can do it over with Mike at Summit this year.
Okay. Wendell, thank you so much for your time. I know, I'm sorry, if you were watching this video, the last 5 minutes are probably a waste of time. But the time before has been very valuable for me. I think Dominic has gotten some insight as well, and the other people who joined. Thank you so much for joining me and answering these questions. And I wish you all the best and a lot of success, both in cloud and server with the Confluence product.
No, cheers. And thanks, Dominic, for joining the call as well and sharing your question. I'm glad I could provide an answer for you. For all of the questions, if you do have more questions, please share those with Martin. We're always listening. I want to reiterate that. We do get a lot of suggestions and ideas from everybody, and we can't work on everything. We are listening, and we do care about what everyone thinks. And as I said, I think as we move forward, we're able to spend more time thinking about each of the different customer bases separately, which allows us to optimize for server and cloud differently as well, which is, I think, a great outcome for our customers. So if you have questions, more questions or ideas, things, are you frustrated about something, otherwise, please share them through with Martin. And I'm always happy to take a look at that. I personally answer a lot of questions from customers. still, without passing them on to my team. I enjoy having that conversation. So, so please pass it on.
Cool. Thank you so much. See you soon.